NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo. 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 Hello, my friends. Thank you for being here. So good to have you. I hope this finds you well and secure. Another tremendous day on Earth in this universe. Life is Buddha. Buddha is life. NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo. What is life without perceiving it? What is life to a rock? It's all about the mind. That we can perceive this immense process of the universe, even if it's just in our little backyard. How amazing is it that everything in your backyard, in your house, in your furniture, in each other, is exactly the same, no different from the processes that make quasars, nebulae, the universe itself. It's truly mind-boggling to consider, isn't it? But ask a biologist, ask a chemist, ask a physicist. And it's there's some rain going on here in northeast Mississippi, northeast. So you may hear some thunder, some rain noises. No need to be alarmed. Let's continue reading the opening of the eyes. We're now at a chapter in the opening of the eyes on 5 proclamations, undoubtedly of Shakyamuni's. Apology. Little eye itch. Do you ever get those itches in the eye? Annoying. Okay. We've been talking about the 3,000 realms over and over and over. I know. So what are these 5 proclamations? Let's turn to Nichiren and see what he has to say. As I contemplate, it is doubtless that Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and forces appearing in such sutras as the Flower Garland, the Sutra of Meditation on the Buddha of Infinite Life, and the Great Sun Buddha Sutra, would protect those who read and practice them. Of course, they're all teachings of Shakyamuni, right? However, if those who read and practice those sutras should become antagonistic to those who practice the Lotus Sutra, the culminating sutra, the reason for all of the earlier ones, those very same forces would abandon those who practice the Flower Garland and other sutras for those who practice the Lotus Sutra. In other words, you have to learn to move on. You have to learn to study the entire scholarship of Buddhism to get to the point. If you stop somewhere along the way, and not just, everybody takes pauses and takes time to integrate. That's not what Nichiren is talking about. What Nichiren is talking about is specifically to those schools, which in our day and age have absolutely no reason to go backwards into early teachings and then claim, and this is the key, that they have found the secret hidden teaching. That's just greed, avarice, anger, and foolishness. Stupidity in many translations, yeah? Study the thing to the end, and then you can claim to know. Right? It is, for instance, like a filial son who would abandon his own father for royal service if his compassionate father should become an enemy of the king. It's a very roundabout. Again, a lot of filial piety in the cultures, certainly around Nichiren's time. The idea, and I said this in the last video, the idea of ancestral lineage still very, very strong in the Asian continents, not so much in the West. This is a most filial act, there it is, and the same could be said of Buddhism. I believe that the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and 10 female Rakshasa demons mentioned in the Lotus will protect me. In addition, numerous Buddhas in the 6 directions and the 25 Bodhisattvas mentioned in the canons of the Pure Land sect, the 1,200 deities appearing in the 2 mandalas of the Shingon, True Word sect, as well as all the Buddhas and guardian deities of the 7 sects of Buddhism, will protect Nichiren. Not because there are actual deities, but he's talking about the teachings, the expedient means, the skillful devices of those teachings will support Nichiren's practice as the votary of the Lotus Sutra, you see. I believe that it was in this way that guardians of the 7 sects of Buddhism protected Grandmaster Dengyo. So, again, lineage, looking at the great masters, the great bodhisattvas, the great teachers throughout the past since Shakyamuni's demise, extinction, if you like that word better. There always seem to rise at regular intervals throughout the history of Buddhism those who see clearly the path to self-practice, to realization of Buddha-ness, yeah? And just by virtue of being rational, reasonable, and accurate, there are many ways to say this, right? Even in Western folklore, that in writings, the truth will out is a saying I've heard many times growing up. That the truth, the correctness of any system will just become obvious. You can push against it, you can rhetoricize about it, and rail against it for your own gains and purposes, and you may gain some support for some time, but eventually the truth is the truth. And if you are a practitioner of the truth, then you are supported, right? I, Nichiren, believe that as soon as the one who practices the Lotus Sutra appears, all those forces, such as the sun god, the moon god, those who heard the preachings of the Lotus in the 3 meetings in 2 places on Mount Sacred Eagle, and the stupa appearing high in the sky, right, the treasure tower, will hurry to his aid, just as a magnet attracts pieces of iron and the moon reflects itself on the water. They will bear his difficulties and carry out the vows they made before the Buddha at those meetings. Nevertheless, they have not come to rescue me, Nichiren. Is it because I am not the one who practices the Lotus Sutra? I must consider the sutra in light of my own background in order to see what is wrong with me. Now, once again, we're touching upon a doubt in Nichiren's life that he's sharing for the purposes of demonstrating that when you go the way of rationale and reason in a world that is filled with greed, manipulations, right? The world of anger, backstabbing, manipulations, power hungry, possessing, right? And that stupidity that attends it, that being the one who points out the emperor's naked is extremely likely to get you a punch in the mouth. That doesn't make you any less right, but it means that the general mindset around you, within the sphere you find yourself, is greatly influenced by their own greed, their fear of losing something they don't even have, they think they possess, right? This is the samsaric delusion, and it is in full force in our day, in our time. So if you're the rational one, the reasonable one, and you see things as they truly are, be a bit cautious. Be strong. Know that you know what you know. But at the same time, don't assume everybody wants to hear it. It's not that they don't want to hear it. It's that they're not prepared. They're not ready. They're fully invested in their delusions. Boy, do we know people like that, don't we? So this is why Nichiren is talking about this, although from the perspective that if you get a lot of pushback in your practice, doesn't it make you consider sometime, am I doing the right thing? Is this what I think it is? Maybe I'm the idiot. Maybe I'm not seeing. It's the nature of doubt, isn't it? So this Nichiren is sharing this with us and saying, those moments happen. We have a human mind. It drifts, right? The monkey mind. We haven't talked about the monkey mind a lot or much in quite a while. But those distractions that are of our own making for attachments, right? The monkeys, they're still there. So let's see how he goes with this. Some might ask, how do I know that the Pure Land and Zen sects today are enemies of the Lotus Sutra and evil friends, people posing as friends, but whose influence is taking us away from our own enlightenment? By virtue of our own willingness, yeah? Of all people. To this I would not answer in my own words. Instead, I would show them the ugly faces of slanderers of the true Dharma reflected in the mirror of the sutras and commentaries, although I can't help those who were born blind. Some people just won't listen, right? And again, I can't help those who are born blind. Trying to convince somebody who's standing on complete unreason, unrational, emotional, right? Staunch in their whatever they're spouting, is a diminishment of your own dignity. Don't bother. In the 11th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, Facile 4, the beholding the stupa of treasures, it is written. So, it is written. I doubt Nichiren ever said that, but he's referring to the stupa of treasures, the moment in the story of the Lotus Sutra where Shakyamuni Buddha, as exemplar of Buddha-ness, is joined by, Tao Buddha, also known as many treasures and other names, and floating in the sky as this great jeweled stupa, the analogy being all the great rewards and magnificent beauty of life, which is you and I. We're the Buddha-ness in our mind, the Gohonzon gate to our Buddha awareness is NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo. That is the treasure tower, which it's built in, right? So he's quoting from that chapter. Then the Buddha of many treasures in the stupa of treasures offered half of his seat to Shakyamuni Buddha. In other words, with your mind, come join me in this magnificent place. The great crowd saw the two Buddhas sitting cross-legged on the lion-shaped throne in the stupa of the seven treasures. 7. NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo. 7. Not 6. Shakyamuni Buddha spoke out resoundingly to monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen, all who practice Lotus Sutra Buddhism. Quote, who will expound this Lotus Sutra widely in the Saha world? This magnificent Buddha-ness, who will expound it? Now is the time. I shall enter nirvana before long. I, Shakyamuni, will be extinct. This provisional body of mine will no longer be here. Who will support this Buddha-ness? Who will, going forward, bring others to this enlightenment, to this treasure tower? Who will do it? And therefore hope to transmit this Lotus Sutra to someone so that it may be preserved after my extinction. Who will do it? This was the first proclamation of the Buddha. Then Shakyamuni Buddha, wishing to repeat what he had said, declared in verse in the same chapter, quote, the sage master, the Buddha of many treasures, who had passed away a long time ago, came riding in the stupa of treasures for the sake of the Dharma. Why don't you, everyone, strive to preserve the Dharma? Just as a strong wind sways the twigs of a tree, those Buddhas employ these expedients to have the Dharma forever preserved. Listen, everyone, who will uphold this sutra and read and recite it after my demise? Now is the time for you to make your vows before me, Shakyamuni, or Buddha. The vows being NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo. This was his second proclamation. Shakyamuni Buddha continued on, quote, the Buddha of many treasures and the Buddhas of my manifestation, whom I have assembled here, wish to know who will do all of this. So what does he mean? What is this part of the sutra saying? Remember how he introduces every sermon with all those who attend. And all those who attend are whom? They are the mind capacities that he's addressing. The bodhisattvas are those who course through their lives with a mission toward their own enlightenment influencing those around them toward their enlightenment. The Shravakas, the Pratyeka Buddhas, the laymen, the laywomen, all of these people he includes because he's not really including people. He's including the different levels of understanding of enlightenment, the different levels of experiencing this life to whom he is speaking. Right? And in the Lotus Sutra, he goes way out of his way to include every mind he can possibly conceive of, including, no less, every mind that he has defined in all of his previous teachings. That's what he means by all of these Buddhas of my manifestation, all of these previous stories, all of these previous teachings, and the things that they inculcate into the mind, awareness, coming to Buddha-ness. They too are here to listen to this sermon as the culmination of all of these teachings. That's what that's saying. Continuing, good men, consider thoroughly before making a great vow to preach this sutra. For it is difficult to do so. It is not so difficult to preach all the other sutras. They're all nice little stories, and they help people grow, which are as numerous, he goes on, as the sands in the Ganges River. I've been doing this over 40 years. There's a lot of versions, a lot of stories, and there's a lot of song repetition of the same sermon for many years, several different sermons over the 40 some odd years I've been teaching. But along with those, the stories that address the people I was talking to. There's lots of them out there. It is not as difficult to make Mount Sumeru, to take Mount Sumeru and throw it over to countless Buddha lands. You could pick up an entire mountain and throw it. I mean, obviously, that's an impossibility, but it's an analogy. As it is difficult to preach this sutra, however, in the evil world, evil because of the tremendous amount of distractions and attachments that we now live in after Shakyamuni's death. It is not as difficult to carry a stack of hay and remain unburnt in the conflagration, burning down the whole world, as it is difficult to uphold this sutra and preach it even to one person after my extinction. To take people to this pinnacle of the teachings, the purpose of Buddhism, the Lotus Sutra, to teach people to read, recite, copy, and to put their entire resolve into attaining Buddha-ness through this sutra, NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo, will be the most difficult because it requires the most conviction, the most confidence, the most dedication. Right? In other words, it's easy to spend your whole life ritualizing things until you die, with like some hopeful expectation that in a future life, things will be great. What's truly difficult is to be it now. It seems completely the reverse of what it should be. But to have the conviction to open Buddha-ness in your mind now, this very moment, your only struggle then being to stay in that throughout your life. That's really difficult. It's difficult in what way? It's difficult to maintain that dedication, that resolve, to know with certainty, NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo, this is the ultimate, right? Because as humans, we're constantly distracted. There's something better over there. There's something better over there. No, stay with this, right? If you've practiced for any duration of time, especially years, you know, even as you've waned in your practice, right? We've all done it. The truth is there. When you come back to it, it's like a rush of cold water. Wow. It's always, and then you perceive over time, this has been developing. I'm just so used to agglomerating things and collecting things that I haven't noticed how much my life has changed. The world has changed. Those around me have changed. It's because of this practice. But when we get tired, when we get lazy, when we lose our focus, it's easy to forget those things. As unconscionable as that is, that's the human samsaric problem, isn't it? So this is why he's saying this sutra is difficult. He goes on, good men, who will uphold this sutra and read and recite it after my death? Now is the time for you to make a vow before the Buddha. This was Nichiren now. This was the third proclamation of Shakyamuni Buddha. The fourth and fifth which appear in the Devadatta chapter, will be considered later. The meaning of these words in the Beholding the Stupa of Treasures chapter is clear. It is as clear as the great sun shining in the sky or a mole on a white face. Nevertheless, those who were born blind, those who were born who have slanted eyes or who are one-eyed, who believe that only their own teachers are wise men, or those who are stuck to false teachings, will not be able to see this. Despite all the difficulties, however, I will try to write here for those who aspire for Buddhism. It is difficult to have the chance of hearing the Lotus Sutra. Harder than to see the once in a 3,000 years peach flowers at Shi Wang Mu's orchard, or the Adambara flowers, right? The historically, the Adambara flowers, they blossom, every 500 years or something? Which are said to bloom once in 3,000 years to foretell the coming of the wheel-turning noble king. There's some folklore for you. You should also know that even the 8-year war between Han Kao-tzu and Xia Yu for the control of China, the 7-year war in Japan between Minamoto no Yoritomo and Taira no Munemori, the struggle for power between the Ashura demons and Indra, or the battle between the gold-winged bird and the dragon king at Lake Anavatapta, do not exceed in importance the intensity the war between the Lotus Sutra and all the other sutras, vying for supremacy. Yeah. The truth of the Lotus Sutra was revealed in Japan twice. You should know that it was due to Grandmaster Dengyo and me, Nichiren. Blind persons will not believe this. It can't be helped. These words in the Lotus Sutra regarding the 3 pronouncements are an assessment through the meeting of Shakyamuni Buddha, the Buddha of many treasures, and other Buddhas in manifestation from all over the universe, of all the Buddhist scriptures that exist in Japan, China, India, and the Dragon Palace, heaven, and all the worlds in the universe. This Lotus Sutra is the culmination the actual manifestation of the law, of the practice of self-enlightenment. That were Shakyamuni's entire life of scholarship and teaching. Now we go to the formal ancient Chinese methodology of teaching with question and answers. Question: are those sutras, such as the Flower Garland Sutra, the Hodo Sutras, the Wisdom Sutra, the Revealing the Profound and Secret Sutra, the Ryogo Sutras, the Entering the Lankavatara Sutra, right? Great Sun Buddha Sutra, the Nirvana Sutra, among what the Lotus Sutra calls the 9 easier or 6 difficult actions to spread the Lotus Sutra after the death of Shakyamuni Buddha? So basically listing all the important sutras to these other sects and schools, right? Are they all necessary in order to teach the Lotus Sutra? Answer: Tripitaka masters of the Flower Garland sect, such as Tushun, Chiyen, Fatsang, and Chengquan, say, quote, both the Flower Garland and the Lotus Sutras are among the 6 difficult actions. In name, they are separate sutras, but they are one in principle in what they preach, just as it is stated in Tendai's Great Concentration and Insight. In practicing Hinayana, there are 4 separate gates leading to the one truth. So that's an interesting statement, isn't it? Let's continue. Tripitaka Master Xuanchang, Grandmaster Tsuen, and other Dharma characteristic scholars maintain, quote, both the Revealing the Profound and Secret Sutra and Lotus Sutra are among the 6 difficult actions because they preach the most sophisticated of the consciousness-only doctrine expounded as the 3rd or final stage according to the Dharma characteristics teaching. Again, the translation, theology, it's wrong. Qitsang, Grandmaster Qixiang, and others of the 3 treatises sect maintain, quote, the Wisdom and Lotus Sutras are different in name, but identical in body. They preach the same Dharma, end quote. Tripitaka Master Subhakarashima, our old buddy, Vajrabodhai, Amogashvajra, and other Indian Chinese Chenyen Shingon scholars say, quote, the Great Sun Buddha Sutra and the Lotus Sutra are the same in principle. They both are among the 6 difficult actions, end quote. However, Grandmaster Kobo in Japan states, quote, the Great Sun Buddha Sutra is not among the scriptures preached by Shakyamuni. It was preached by the Dharma body of the Great Sun Buddha, end quote. Again, an emanation of Shakyamuni Buddha. Some say, quote, as the Flower Garland Sutra was preached by the reward body of the Buddha, it does not belong to either the 6 difficult actions nor the 9 easier ones, end quote. Founders and scholars of these 4 schools maintain this. Several thousand latter scholars repeat the same thing. It is regrettable to say that if I, Nichiren, spoke up against them without reservation, people today would not even look at me. Tradition being what it is. They would heap further injustice upon me, even to the point of slandering me to the king and endangering my life. Like that hasn't happened, right? Nevertheless, in the Nirvana Sutra preached under the twin sala trees, the will of our compassionate father Shakyamuni Buddha, it is said that we should rely upon the Dharma preached by Shakyamuni Buddha, not upon the interpretations by a person. It means that the four reliances, bodhisattvas, who are to lead people after the death of the Buddha or Shakyamuni Buddha, are divided into four groups. In the fourth group are the highest ranking bodhisattvas, such as Universal Sage, which we read about in the Lotus, and Manjushri. And even they should not be trusted unless they preach the sutras in hand. Read for yourself, in other words, straight from Shakyamuni. You don't need to follow anyone. As I say repeatedly, your teacher is you. You need to educate your teacher in you. And you do this by study. And that sorts the path out for your life to create your Buddha wisdom, to instantiate Buddha-ness. Following someone else is a ritual. It's a giving up of your own enlightenment, really. We don't follow people, we follow truth. And that Buddha-ness, that truth, is yours and yours alone to discover. The truth is the same, but your path to it is uniquely yours. And this is why I say over and over again, we are our own teachers. Follow the truth, the Dharma, not people. That's attachment. That's the very thing that keeps us from our enlightenment. And here Nichiren is making it clear once again, this repeated exhortation of Shakyamuni's. Nichiren didn't make it up. He's just quoting it. And he's like, dude, can you not read? Yeah. It is also said in the Nirvana Sutra that we should rely only upon the sutras that completely reveal the truth, not upon sutras that do not completely reveal the truth. This means that we must distinguish the true sutra from provisional ones before relying upon it. In the commentary on the 10 stages by Bodhisattva Nagarjuna, it is also said that we should rely upon the honest commentaries on sutras and not upon evil ones. In other words, there are those who want to satisfy their own agendas. Be on the lookout for that kind of manipulation. It becomes very clear on its own. When you find yourself reading materials and press releases and magazines and publications from groups, entities, organizations, sects, and you see this slight hint that a person or a group of persons are the ones you owe your enlightenment to, they're the ones you owe the teachings to, whatever, in whatever form, be incredibly suspicious. Call that out. Because there's only one thing the teachings are about, is your Buddhahood, your enlightenment. You don't owe that to anyone. It's already innately in you. All you're doing is awakening it, and that's on you. That's the law of enlightenment. It doesn't belong to anyone else. They can't offer it to you, give it to you, push it into you. You're the only one who can awaken it. So be extremely cautious of that, because that's a manipulation. Grandmaster Chin Dai says, adopt whatever agrees with the sutra and do not believe in that which is not found in the sutra in word or meaning. So that puts a little bit of work on you. How do you find meaning? Teach yourself. The meaning is only relevant to you. I can't teach you meaning. I can talk about meaning. I can share my insights that are meaningful to me, and maybe that helps you on the way. But you have to do this for yourself. There is no other way. While Grandmaster Dengyo states, quote, rely upon the words of the Buddha in the sutras. Do not believe in what has been transmitted orally, which is kind of a flip, isn't it? Because Shakyamuni spoke orally. That's how all of his sermons were taught, learned, repeated. But unfortunately, as soon as things get written down, and may not this be the incredible wisdom of Shakyamuni? That the moment you commit writing, words become things and then easily manipulated. Shakyamuni did not teach that way. And in part, I'm sure, because he was concerned about those manipulations. He said, you want to know the truth? You want to know what I'm teaching? Hear it from my mouth. And this is in essence what Dengyo is saying. But Dengyo is talking about the words from the mouths of those who have seized upon the words to become clever manipulators. So Dengyo is saying, go back to the original transcriptions and rely on that for your search of meaning, not on these clever orators who are espousing opinions that are bound to be colored by their own agendas. Isn't that fascinating? Enshin, the Grandmaster Chisho, states that we should transmit the Buddha's teachings only from sutras. Okay. Nichiren continues, now, as for the assessments of the sutras by the founders of the 4 Buddhist sects mentioned above, their judgments seem more or less to conform to sutras and their commentaries. However, they all seem to stick to the teaching of their own sects without correcting the errors of their own teachers. Their opinions are formed from egotism and distorted interpretations of sutras. It is a self-decorated egocentricity. After the death of Shakyamuni Buddha, Vatsiputra and Vaipulya strengthened their beliefs by adopting Buddhist doctrines. Likewise, Chinese thinking since the later Han, when Buddhism was introduced, became more intricate than non-Buddhist thought in India before the time of Shakyamuni Buddha, or Confucianism in the time of the 3 emperors and 5 rulers, when Buddhism was unknown. Misusing Buddhist doctrines, they skillfully established their own egotistical teachings. In the same way, teachers of such sects as the flower garland, or Kigan, Dharma characteristics, or Hoso, and true word, Shingon, envious of Tendai's true teaching, tend to resort to distorted interpretations of the true Lotus Sutra in order to fit it into their provisional teachings. Surely those who aspire to enlightenment should be unbiased, distance themselves from sectarian quarrels, and not despise other people. It is said in the 10th chapter of the Lotus Sutra, Teacher of the Dharma, that among the sutras that have already been preached and are now being preached and will be preached, the Lotus Sutra is supreme. It says this in the sutra. Commenting on this, Grandmaster Miao Lo states in his annotations on the words and phrases of the Lotus Sutra, quote, "Besides the Lotus Sutra, some sutras claim to be the king of sutras, but they are not really the first among sutras, as they do not claim to be the first among those which have already been preached, are being preached, and will be preached." He also asserts in his commentary on the profound meaning of the Lotus Sutra, quote, "Although the Lotus Sutra is an incomparable dharma, above all of the teachings of the past, present, and future, many are confused about this, and they will suffer forever by slandering the true dharma." Surprised by this statement in the Lotus Sutra and Grandmaster Miao Lo's commentaries on it, I have read all the Buddhist scriptures and commentaries by later teachers. As a result, all my doubts have melted away. It is not even worth mentioning that ignorant men of the Shingon or True Word today believe that theirs is superior to the Lotus Sutra because they have finger signs and mantras, or simply because Grandmaster Jikaku said so. Likewise, it is said in the Mitsugan-kyo, the Sutra of Mystic Glorification, quote, "Such sutras as the Juji-kyo, the 10 Stages Sutra, the Kimnara Great Tree Sutra, or the Supernatural Powers Sutra and the Srimala Sutra, are all begotten from this Mitsugan-kyo. As such, this sutra is superior to all Buddhist scriptures," end quote. The Daijun-gyo, the Great Cloud Sutra, says, quote, "This Daijun-gyo is the wheel-turning noble king among sutras because it preaches the real nature of people and everlasting nature." In the Sixth Paramita Sutra, it states, quote, "All the true dharmas preached by numerous Buddhas in the past, and all the 84,000 wonderful dharmas I am preaching in this world can be grouped in 5 categories." These are the words of Shakyamuni, right? 1. Sutras, the Buddha's teachings. 2. Precepts, proper methods of understanding and behavior, right? 3. Commentaries on the sutras, further elucidations of meaning in the sutras. 4. The wisdom of the Buddha, the insights from these meanings of the teachings. And 5. The mystic spells. With these 5 I shall preach and convert all the people, even if the people are incapable of upholding the sutras, precepts, commentaries, and the wisdom of the Buddha. I can still enable them to attain enlightenment. This invocation part, what is translated as spells, it is the, as I call it, the physical active meditation. Not just quietly contemplating your mind, but launching your mind toward this much greater perceptive experience, Buddha-ness. Yeah? That's an active thing, something we have to actively do, not just sit quietly and wait for it. I mean, this is the whole teaching of Buddhism. It's an active decision. This is self-actualizing Buddha-ness, right? Not waiting for somebody to lay it on you. Even if they have committed such sins as the 4 major sins or the 5 rebellious sins, or even if those Isendai or Ichantika who slander the Mahayana Sutras have committed serious errors, I can enable them to purge themselves of their sins or errors and obtain emancipation and nirvana, enlightenment, at once. He's pointing to NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo. He's pointing to the self-motivated actualization of Buddha-ness. It is to such people that I preach the teachings of these mantras. These 5 categories of teachings are analogous to the 5 tastes of milk and 4 milk products, the most refined of which is the wonderful taste of clarified butter, daigo, ghee, right? The teaching of the incantations is like the taste of daigo, which is the most exquisite of the 5. It can cure various sicknesses and keep both body and mind healthy. So it is the teachings of this, the most admirable aspect of Buddhism, that extinguishes serious errors in all people. It is the act with eyes, ears, body, flesh, vibration, sound, all of the senses, all of the consciousnesses working in consort, focused on the characters of the mandala that open the gate, the Gohanzan, to our true understanding of life. Buddha. No amount of reading and recitation and memorization, that's just training. Training for what? For enlightenment, for Buddha-ness. How do we do that? Do we just wait around? Well, I've read 16 of the books. I should be there now. No. You are teaching, training your mind to penetrate this truth. How are we doing time-wise? I've gone on too long. Next in the Geji Kyo, the Revealing the Profound and Secret Sutra, it is stated. And so he's going to go on. This answer is quite profound. He's demonstrating how all of these teachings are tools in the arsenal of training ourselves, our mind of perception, to ready ourselves for this true nature that we all have. How do we do it? How do we maintain it, resolve to it, actualize it? And it's through this active meditation, this willful effort to open that gate of mind state. Namu, I'm ready, I'm here, I'm present, I'm open to, and I'm now invoking the entire scholarship, the entire meaning, the entire self-realizing of NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo, Buddha-ness. I call it forth in my mind. I open, I release this perceptive act. NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Please take care of your health. Be kind to yourself. Use all the resources around this channel. You know them all. The website, the bookstore, so on and so forth. I'm so proud of you for having the tenacity to keep doing this, because the more you do it, the more you will experience truth. Your life will not only be altered in a life-affirming, amazing way, but as you continue, you can't help but notice how your environment will mirror that change. That sometimes is the most amazing thing. A lot of times unexpected thing. NaMuMyoHoRenGeKyo. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.